Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all today. So, today I'll be presenting an idea that is slightly different from that I presented last week. So, it was simply a test that was supposed to be integrated in the bot from the one that I presented last week. But since I was doing it in some kind of sandbox environment that I created for myself, uh, I had to make sure it works first before I could integrate it in my main bot. So, the difference is not just in the in the in the complexity of the bot, but also in the functionality of the bot. So the one that I presented last week was a marketplace. Was supposed to be a Telegram-based marketplace that sells essentially merchandise. And yeah, what it was able to do by then was simply to communicate and and just give a response to show there's someone responding from the other side of the chat, but there was nothing really meaningful. So today I'm presenting another bot. Yeah, like I said, it's just a sandbox environment that I was testing things out before I could implement it in the bot that I presented last week. So I hope you can all see my screen now. Is it visible?
Um, yes, it is very visible.
Yeah, so the bot that I am presenting today is called Health Inquiry, like you can see on my screen. So essentially, it's a health assistant. You ask questions, health related questions, exclusively health related questions, and it will give you meaningful feedback. Maybe on the drugs that you're probably thinking to understand how they operate, or about a certain symptom, like you want to understand its implications in physiologically in your body, or anything health related. Maybe you have some complications that you want clarity on and how to address them. And not just it doesn't offer only information, but it also can be used as a health scheduler for things for dates that are very important regarding a person's health. Like maybe if a woman had a child and they don't know, okay, they are likely to forget the next day the child is supposed to go for vaccination, maybe what the schedule would read. So they could use this bot as a tool for reminding them that maybe in the next few days or on a particular day their child has to be vaccinated. So, and it does that through communicating with the email and Telegram. So if I gave it a prompt, I am going to put something, might be very funny, but yeah, let me type it here. So I'm going to give it a prompt. Let me say, uh, can you all see my screen? Let me get some feedback, please. Someone raise a hand or say a word. I want to be sure we're all on the same page.
Yes, we can see your
Thank you
screen.
very much. Mm. So if I gave it a prompt and said, maybe my wife is 6 months, 6 months and 2 days pregnant. When will they possibly give birth? Give birth. So this is actually a technical question. So I'm giving it information about a fact that I wanted to give me feedback about. Like it's supposed to do some calculations because there's an actual formula for calculating the expected date of delivery of a woman basing on their age of their pregnancy. So let's see what result it gives me. So it says the due date would be approximately 3 months and 28 days from now, around May 28, 2024. So for it to give me a result like this, first of all, it needs to have awareness of, because when you realize in my prompt, I didn't put what month we're in now, and I also didn't put what month we're in now and what year. Oh, It actually got the year wrong, but yeah, I think I'll correct that. But you can tell that it has at least a vague sense of awareness of what today is. So there's just a glitch in the technical programming of it. But I'll correct that. For it to be aware of the actual dates today is, I think I'll fix that. But you can see that it was able to know that at least we are in a month earlier than May. And when you make these calculations accurately, because a woman is supposed to be pregnant for 9 months, so there's approximately 3 months left for the pregnancy to be complete. And you can see it told us we have 3 months and about 28 days to the date of delivery. So that means it has an awareness of how long a woman stays pregnant for, and all those details about the human body and how it operates. So if I want to be reminded of this date, you can see it actually asks me, would you like would you like reminders for this date? I could affirm this and say yes. So when I affirm that, it does ask for my email, and I'm going to type my email. And so this email is supposed to be stored somewhere in my database, and when it's stored there on a particular date when it's supposed to remind me, I can actually give it a frequency of how long it should remind me from that particular date that that my wife is going to give birth. So when I think about what do I want to say, so when I give it the email, it's supposed to give me feedback in terms of a reminder, either to my email or right here in our Telegram chat. When that day comes closer, maybe within a week or 2 days from that date, it should give me a reminder that the day is approaching and I somehow need to be ready. Now, essentially, it keeps this information, all this contact information in a database that I'm going to show you in my workflow. And there's so much that I haven't implemented, but at least I can show you the advancements that I made from the last bot that I designed last week. Let me reload this, please. Uh, so it's essentially a Telegram bot. Takes in a Telegram message, either text or audio, and then checks for the nature of the input. If it's text, it takes it through the upper route, and if it's audio, it takes it through the lower route. And for the audio, it converts it into text. You can see this is a transcription tool. When it's converted, so I have text for both routes as I get into the AI agent. And there's a chat bot, there's a chat model here, the OpenAI chat model. So this one creates a conversational response to my prompts. And then for the conversations that we're having, for it to have uh, a little persistent memory and context of a conversation we're having for at least up to maybe 5 statements in a discussion, we needed to have a chat memory so that it doesn't forget even the previous statement that I sent it. So for it to be able to consider at least 5 statements in a chat that I'm having with it, it needs to have a chat memory. So I added this chat memory with the Postgres chat memory, and then there's an even more persistent database that I want it to refer to every time it has to give feedback to the user. So in this database, I use the Superbase vector database. So essentially, I'm going to put documents there. They're going to be medical books that have reliable standards, credible standards that are recognized globally on certain things, diseases, medicines, and medical procedures and medical ethics. So there's a number of books that I'm curating for that purpose. I have a few that I would love to show you on the subjects, on some subjects in medicine, human medicine. So there's this. It's a biochemistry book. It essentially has information about the chemistry of our bodies, how the food you eat is turned into glucose, how it's integrated into the body, uh, the chemical structure of all the different parts of our bodies. It's essentially all in a book like this. So there's a number of them, but they are standard books that we we rely on when studying in medical school. And yeah, I think this is a good standard, has a number of things that I believe would be helpful for the chatbot to refer to before it can actually give feedback or answers to the person that has asked a question. And then there's this. My screen isn't bringing it out clearly. So it's a standard anatomy and physiology book. Anatomy is simply the physical structures of our bodies, and physiology is the operations of things in our bodies. So the chemistry of all those things is in a book like this. And I think it would be helpful for the chatbot to refer to something that is standard before it can give feedback to a user, rather than scouring the internet where any person can practically write even a blog. The credibility of that information, the credibility of that knowledge might be questionable, but at least the knowledge in these books has been tested by experts. And yeah, if I could use it as a reference for the chatbot to refer to before it can give feedback to a user, it would help restrain it and maintain the quality of the responses that it gives to users. And then there's this other one. This one simply talks about medicines, all the different medicines that are being used by standard globally will be listed in this book, and all their related information will be listed in the book. So if I asked a question about paracetamol, perhaps even the active research that has been validated will be documented in a book like this. So these books are updated quite very often. Like this one in particular is updated every year. So it has ever updated information about medications that are used globally. So at a particular moment, I'm supposed to keep reviewing the books that I have as a foundation for the knowledge that my chatbot will be offering responses from. So essentially, that's my workflow. So if someone asked a question, it will be taken through this workflow and in the Superbase database. All these books will be embedded, and every time a question is asked, there's a reference to those books before a response is given to the user. And it helps maintain the quality or preserve the reliable, credible quality of the responses that the chatbot gives. So essentially, that is the tool. And I'm going to integrate the same functionality in the other bot that I presented last week and make it even more advanced and actually meaningful to the community. So to maintain it, my business model would essentially be subscription. Someone would pay to use the service, not just for information, but also as a scheduling tool. So yeah, essentially that's what I wanted to present. Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Oh wow, I can't get enough of this. This is awesome. Um, yeah, so what gave you the choice of choosing Superbase? Like, why did you go with the Superbase database?
Okay. Superbase has a back end service. Okay, I'm still learning a lot about it myself. I only have a few things that I can say about it. Well, first of all, the workflow automation tool that I used integrates perfectly well with Superbase. And since Superbase has Postgres as its database service, yeah, since it has Postgres as its database service, I had to focus on Superbase because I was going to use Postgres as my relational database.
All
Essentially,
right.
that was the reason I chose Superbase.
Okay. Um, yeah. And since it's still in progress, I just have more questions about Superbase. But for now, that's a good choice. Yes, Ronnie.
My question is not necessarily on the presentation, but it's biased on the point that I know that Manuel has a medical background. I'm curious, what are those problems that can be fixed with this technology like Web3 or computer science? What specific problems can be fixed in the medical space, really? Because all I see people talking about is mainly a system for storing information. Aren't there any other problems that maybe a medic would know that may need that can be solved using these technologies? Thank you.
Okay, like you said, one of the biggest problems we have is inconsistencies in access to information and integrity of data. I don't know if I don't know what idea you have of the extent of that problem, but it impacts a lot of things, including the lives of people. And that is true because I think that it was the previous session that I had when I talked about the other bot, when I talked about how unawareness of how many people in a particular place have a particular disease can affect the decisions that are made by the Ministry of Health in terms of how they are going to spend money, in terms of what measures they should deploy in preserving good health for a particular community of people. Think about things like I don't know what disease I should give you an example of. Like if we had a measles, okay, let me use tuberculosis. When did you last see someone with tuberculosis, for example? Like how would you even know that someone actually has that problem? It's very difficult because the presentation of tuberculosis is just as the same as normal cough. And when you actually think about it, one of the things that would put into consideration to diagnose someone with tuberculosis, like at least, let me say the first thing that you would think about, that you would at least ask the patient before you can do further investigations is how long they've been coughing. It is that simple. How long have you been coughing? But just imagine someone has coughed for 2 months and then they're going to hospital after 2 months. If it is tuberculosis that they have, there's a possibility they've infected so many, and that of course increases how many people are going to be impacted by the disease because even more people will definitely fall sick from among those that have been infected. But how much do we know about these people? And by the time someone comes to hospital, we don't even track. Okay, of course there are programs now for tracking the process of healing of a patient, particularly for tuberculosis. Sorry about that. But my point is, all this information, when it's collected, it is reviewed after periods of at least months. You know, you have all this information about how many people in a particular area, maybe in Nakawa, how many people in Nakawa have this disease. And by the time you find out, it has been like a month. And if this disease had um, an impact it could exert on the community within those 30 days, it would have completely devastated the place, the area. So if we can have this data available online in real time, that I've gone to hospital today and I've tested positive for TB. If all this data can be put on chain within minutes, then even at the maybe at the National Center for maybe at the data center for healthcare informatics in this country, they have all this information in real time compared when it's written in a book and then it has to be evaluated after a month after a budget has even been passed off. how much money should be given to Nakawa, perhaps, to curb the health complications of Nakawa. So there are so many problems in data management, in data availability, in data integrity that have that are really disrupting the efficiency of the healthcare sector, not just in Uganda, all over, all over the region, either in Kenya or generally in East Africa. We have a problem of data availability, and the more we undermine the importance of data, the more it actually affects our lives. So you were asking about other problems that are in the healthcare sector that could be addressed with technologies like Web3 and blockchain technology. Well, essentially, it's data and information availability, information integrity. Everything is mostly informatics. It's actually a question that has challenged me. I haven't really thought of how I could use Web3 technology curbing other issues in the healthcare sector, but yeah, I personally see it really about being in information security, information availability. That for me is a real problem. Like I'll give you an example. Another example now. You all know epilepsy, I know, and the epilepsy as you know it, is that condition in which someone would, have fits for a very long time and then froth through the mouth. But actually, epilepsy has so many other subforms, subtypes. Type of epilepsy where you lose consciousness for 2 or 3 seconds. And in environments like we live in right now, now I haven't validated it. Of course, it's not tested through research or something. But I have this theory that a significant percentage of road traffic accidents is caused by that subtype of epilepsy. Like people who lose consciousness for seconds, lose consciousness on steerings, and end up crashing. And this is actually something that I think is true. First, because those who have permits can validate it, can tell you if right now I went back to renew my permit, how many things about my body do they evaluate? What things do they check? How do they know I'm still fit to drive? Do they know how efficient my eyes are at seeing? How best I can hear? Do they know my mental health condition? What do they know about me? And what things do they test about me? Because all these things, for a person that has driven a car, you know that your entire body has to be in sync for you to drive a car, even if it's an automatic. Like you should be fully in control of your feet. You should be able to see all around. You should be able to hear, and your arms should be steady. It looks simple if I was driving slowly, but if I was driving at a standard highway speed, a simple mistake could cause a crash and people could die. So if I lost consciousness for 2 seconds, what do you think would happen if I was on a highway? So all this comes around to data. How much do we know about people? And how can we leverage that knowledge? How can we leverage that data to create an environment that is safe, not just for individuals, but for the entire nation? Yeah, that is why I think the availability of data is very important in decision making, particularly in the field of healthcare. Thank you.
Yeah, I had you pick up making appointments with, okay, with the boss. Yeah. So I have a small question. Uh, what connects with, in case I'm a patient, can it connect a doctor or a pharmacy? Will there be such a feature?
Yeah, thank you very much. So you went right ahead of me. So sorry I didn't talk about that, but that is something that I particularly intended to integrate. That when you when you need help beyond just asking for information and you need to see an expert, the bot should be able to find you someone within the vicinity that is qualified enough to help you with your health related problems. So I intend to work with people in the different sectors of healthcare, specialists, and yeah, everyone in the domain of healthcare that can be helpful to a single civilian. So yeah, it should be able to do that in the future, although right now it's not a functionality that is possible through it.
Thank you. Then also, uh, the last question, and and this bot store medical history for the patient. Or yes, or it's
Yes, it definitely stores information about the patient.
mm-hmm. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this has been good. Do we have more questions? So if we don't have any more questions, I would really want to call this an evening. Thank you everyone for coming in, for listening in, for the suggestions, questions, and every input. It is really awesome. Yeah, thank you for those questions. Allow me to say have a great time, and yeah, see you.